Okay, let's say the directions tell me to round to the nearest hundredth. Okay, and I have a decimal that says 8.749. See if you can follow this logic here. I'm pretty sure you guys as sixth graders know what digits in the decimals place, right? Or the hundredths place, right? Which is what? In this number, what's the hundredths place? Should we review that? Yeah, this is the tenths place. This is the hundredths place. And this is the thousandths place, correct? So what digit am I rounding? I am rounding the 4. Okay, so it's either going to stay a 4 or go up to a 5. There are only two choices. Now, how do I know which one it does? Calvin?
Because if it's 5 or more, you round it up.
If the number next to it is 5 or more, right? Not this number. This is the one I'm rounding. This is the one that tells me whether it goes up or stays the same. And since this is bigger, 5 or bigger, what's going to happen? This is going to become a 5, right? Here is, children, the thing. When you round decimals, write this down. Write slowly so you get this. When you round decimals, and it's only decimals, you leave off all digits after the rounded digit. I will explain at length this to you. When you round decimals, you leave off all digits after the rounded digit. In other words, this. Usually when you round a whole number or something, the numbers after the rounded number we turn to zeros. Okay? Not the case with decimals. With decimals, you don't write anything after that. If I'm rounding to the nearest hundredths place, that's the last digit I write. I don't put 50 after that. Okay? I just write that. And mostly it makes sense because how do you say this number? This is 8 and 75 hundredths. If I put a 0 at the end of it, it's the same number, but how do you say this number? This is 8 and, Peter?
750,000.
Thousandths. So you have to say the word thousandths rather than the hundredths. If you're asked to round to the hundredths, you should only say hundredths in your answer. So you don't change those to zeros, just leave them completely off. Okay? Got that? So if I was rounding to the nearest, let's say I'm rounding to the nearest tenth, and the number was 9.4386. 9.4386 rounded to the nearest tenth is going to be 9.4386 rounded to the nearest tenth is going to be, Jacob?
9.4 thousand. No, 44 thousands.
All right, let's go back to the note I just wrote up here. When you round to decimals, you leave off all digits after the rounded digit. What digit am I rounding?
4.
What do I do with all the digits after it?
Delete that.
Yeah, delete, leave off. But I mean, if this is just going to be 9.4, that's all it's going to be. There's no more digits there. If I'm rounding to the tenths place, when I say my answer, I should say tenths. 9 and 4 tenths. I don't put them zeros because if I put zeros there, then it becomes 9 and what? 4,000 10,000ths, which is goofy in itself. Okay. Now, a little example problem here. By the way, sometimes we do this. Let's say John bought, what can John buy for $6.98? A toy for $6.89. And this is actually true. This is a real world problem, people, that you will run into. If tax is 8%, how much will John have to pay? Let's discuss this for just a minute here. Obviously, when you go into a store and you buy something, I mean, the price tag, what they should do, you know what would be better is if they put the price tag in the stores actually included tax. That way you'd know exactly what the thing costs when you walk up to the register. But if you go to the register with a toy that costs $6.89, if that's all you have, you can't buy the toy because we have to add on a tax. Where does sales tax go? Does anybody know when you go to the store and buy all that stuff? Peter, it pays for the government, it pays for police, fire, ambulance, roads, libraries, all that sort of stuff. You know, you get all this nice stuff. You know, your parents don't have to pay for the nice roads they drive on, except they pay through tax. So, how do I find out how much tax I pay? Anybody know what I do with these to figure it out? And here's a good lesson to learn too. You need to do what, Grace?
You put a decimal the 8.
Okay, well, that would be 80%. 8% is the same as what fraction? 8 100ths. In other words, 8 cents of every dollar you spend, you're going to have to pay 8 cents in tax. But we're going to make it a decimal. What is that decimal? Do you know what 800ths as a decimal is? 0.08. But I still don't know how much tax I pay. How do I know how much tax I pay? Eli?
You multiply the two.
Exactly, and write that down. When you find sales tax, or if you're trying to figure out how much tip, because when you go to a restaurant, you're supposed to be 20% or whatever percent tip, you multiply. People get confused on that all the time. It's always multiplication. And watch what I get. Here, this was where things get really ugly. I am multiplying $6.89 by 0.08. $6.89 times 8%. That's what this is. And here's where it gets a little goofy. We do the multiplication. 8 times 9 is 72. 64 plus 7 is 71. 8 times 6 is 48. 48 plus 7 is 55. Okay, those are my digits. Where does the decimal go? Where does the decimal go? Michael's busy counting. Where's it go?
At the beginning.
Okay, there's 2 places for the decimal here and 2 places for there. So that's 4 places for decimal. So you have to go 1, 2, 3, 4. This, ladies and gentlemen, 0.5512 is how much you have to pay in tax, which should be a little confusing to you because Peter? Money only goes to 2 places, okay? And that's what you have to do when you figure out sales tax or whatever. You need always to round this to the nearest cent. By the way, and the nearest cent is the hundredths place because a penny is 1/100th of a dollar. Okay, so anytime you're asked to figure out sales tax or this or that, okay, so the question to you is going to be, do I pay 55 cents in tax or do I pay 56 cents in tax? What's it going to be? Because that's what the store has to figure out. 55 cents or 56 cents? Calvin? 55, because this is only a 1, you're just going to pay 55 cents in tax. And then, lest you thought you were actually done, how much does he actually owe? He has to pay his $6.89, add onto it the 55 cents he pays in tax, and he's going to end up paying what? $7.44. Almost $7.50. Who's trying to open their lollipop again when I'm talking? I hear it out there. Alright. And in case you haven't fallen in love right now with sales tax, let's say you go buy, what would be the price of probably your average new car? Anybody know what the new car market is here? Gary Rounding, a new car costs probably, how much? $23,000 if you're kind of getting the, kind of the basic average mid-size sedan, whatever, right? And you have to pay tax on cars. If you had to guess how much tax a car would cost, Jacob, how much tax would a car cost you? Just take a guess. What would you think?
$150.
$150 is Jake's guess there. Somebody saying, Ryan, you're saying $1,000. Yeesh. Oh, steep there. DJ?
I'll say 800.
800, Peter?
450.
450, Kelvin?
500.
Alright, let's just do it, because taxes, most places you go, sales tax is about 8%. It was pretty close to what they're talking about. If you go to the city of Chicago, it's like 10%, but 8%. We multiply this by 0.08, pretty easy multiplication, 0, 0, 0, 8 times 3 is 24, 8 times 2 is 16, plus 2 is 18. How many decimal places there? 2. Right there you go, kids. How much tax are you paying on your $23,000 car? $1,840. Alright, so you're almost paying $2,000 in tax when you buy a brand new car. And that's why tax, believe it, boys and girls, tax usually upsets a lot of people, because when you think about how many cars get sold, when you think about how much stuff people buy, we pay an awful lot amount in tax. Because not only do your parents pay sales tax, they also pay income tax, which means when they work a job, you know, if they make $30 an hour, they probably end up paying at least $10 or $12 an hour in tax for that. In addition to that, they pay real estate tax, which if you own any kind of a house at all in Yorkville is probably $7,000 or $8,000 a year. So you can kind of maybe feel why your parents, when they say that it's crazy how much money we pay in tax, it really is. There's a lot of money going out there. And it all goes to pay for your schools, not you guys because you come here and that doesn't go for that, but police, fire, libraries, you know, the president, your congressmen, all those sort of people, and people that work in the parks department. You know, you go play those baseball fields when you're in travel baseball or schools and you play basketball. All that money comes from somewhere, and that's lucky you. Isn't that exciting?
Sure.
Evan?
What if your car was 40 grand and
Well, you could double that then. It'd be about $4,000. That's just kind of the way it works there. So when they say round to the nearest cent, make sure that you know that that's rounding to the nearest hundredths place. What about this? They might also ask you to round to the nearest whole number or to the nearest dollar. If you have 8.436, if I asked you to round that to the nearest whole number, what would that be? Okay, whole numbers don't have decimals, by the way. So the nearest whole number, Alex, would be
8?
Just 8. No decimals, no nothing, just 8. Okay. $16.81 rounded to the nearest dollar. Rounded to the nearest dollar. Brian Schwartz, $17. And you would not put .0 after that because we're rounding, we're not using the decimal there. Perfect.